Imagine this. It's the Middle Ages, around 1200 AD. You've got a bad toothache, and there's no dentist in sight. So, where do you go? The barber shop. Yes, the same guy cutting your hair might also pull your tooth or even stitch up a wound. Sounds wild, right? But in the Middle Ages, barbers weren't just cutting hair. They were cutting flesh too. They shaved beards, pulled teeth, stitched wounds, and even did minor surgeries. Strange but true. And once you hear this story, you'll never look at a barber shop pole the same way again. Let's step back into medieval Europe. Life was tough. Sickness, battles, and no modern medicine meant people needed help fast. People didn't have hospitals like we do today. There were doctors, but most of them didn't treat everyday folks. They preferred studying books or helping rich nobles and kings. So, what about common people? Farmers, merchants, and villagers? Who helped them when they had a toothache, a deep cut, or an infection? That's where the barber came in. At first, barbers just gave haircuts and shaves. But slowly, they started doing more. The trained doctors of that time thought these small jobs were beneath them. They wanted to focus on philosophy, big diseases, and treating kings and nobles. Everyday people were left with no choice but to visit the local barber. Why barbers? It made sense back then. Barbers had steady hands and sharp blades, which were hard to come by, and they were already in every town. If a soldier got hurt in battle, or someone had a bad tooth, the barber was the go-to guy. They did all sorts of things, pulled teeth, stitched cuts, and even did small surgeries, like removing lumps. One of their big jobs was bloodletting. People in the Middle Ages believed letting out bad blood could cure almost anything. Fevers, headaches, you name it. Barbers would cut a vein or use leeches to suck blood out. Sounds strange now, but it was normal then. In England, barbers formed groups called guilds, like the Worshipful Company of Barbers in the 1300s. These groups made rules to keep things safe and organized. Barbers weren't just random guys with knives. They trained, practiced, and got good at their work. Imagine walking into a barber shop. One man is getting a haircut. Another is screaming as his tooth is being yanked out. And in the corner, someone else is getting stitched up. That must have been the weirdest waiting room in history. Have you ever noticed the red and white pole outside a barber shop today? That's not just decoration. It actually comes from this history. Red stood for blood, white for bandages. Barbers were like the superheroes of small towns, affordable and ready to help. They weren't perfect though. Sometimes things went wrong, like a bad cut or too much bloodletting. But in tough times, like during the Black Death, barbers kept people going when no one else could. They were brave, even if their tools were a bit scary. Now, you might be wondering, if barbers were doing surgery, what happened to real doctors? Well, over time, things changed. By the 1500s and 1600s, surgery started to become more professional. Medicine got better, and surgery became its own job. Rules and medical schools developed. Slowly, barbers went back to just cutting hair, while surgeons became a separate respected profession. In France, by 1743, barbers were told to stick to scissors, not scalpels. But for a long period in history, if you needed both a haircut and a tooth pull, the same guy could do it. So next time you sit in a barber's chair, imagine the same seat being used hundreds of years ago, not just for trimming hair, but for surgery too. History is full of these surprising little stories, where ordinary jobs came with extraordinary responsibilities. Now I want to ask you, if you lived in medieval times, would you trust your barber to pull out your tooth? Or would you rather live with the pain? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, hit subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching. See you next time.